Welcome back to the channel, everybody. As we've said before in the past, there are albums that we get to listen to and albums that we have to listen to. Unfortunately, this is one of the albums that we were forced to listen to, and we're still wondering today, how did this album make it to this 100 list that shook the world? The album, Lennie Tristano, Lennie Tristano. It was recorded in 1954 and some of it in 1955. It's on the Atlantic record as LP and CD. So let's talk about this week's artist, Lennie Tristano.
Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah, I'm in a little different setting this week, so you'll have to forgive my background and my microphone.
Do tell, where are you at?
I'm in a new house, the new MSR studio that has not been set up yet, but I've got the next week to get it all set up and tweaked and set up just the way that I want it. So yeah, the MSR studio, we're moving in. The move is done, but gradually unboxing everything and getting new furniture delivered. So yeah, it's been an experience.
I bet it has.
Yeah.
Other than a 3-day weekend to move, what else is new in your world?
Well,
that kind of consumes it all right there, buying and selling a house and moving.
Yeah, you're right. It does. It's a big task, but through it all, the one thing that was steady for me was my music. It was the jazz, kept me grounded, kept me going and motivated. Believe it or not, even the 3.5 days that we spent moving, I was able to play jazz. Kendra reminded me, hey, whatever you do, you got to do it to jazz. So put on some jazz music. And you know what? We worked our tails off Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and we were exhausted. But yeah, man, jazz in my ears was a big deal, helping with the transition to a new home. So,
well, and I understand a big shout out to my niece and the nephews who had really stepped up big time to help you with that move. Keaton, Brady, and Delaney, of course, knocking it out. I'm guessing that Grace was there as well to help with a bunch of stuff.
She was,
I know that you had some additional friends really helping you bang stuff out. So not only did you get to do it with jazz, but then there were good friends in family.
Absolutely. And, thanks for bringing that up, because they all stepped up really big time to help. So, yep, big shout out to them. How about you? What was your week like? What was your week in music like?
My week in music was kind of fun. The artists that we're listening to personally, up at number 22, has been really killer. For me this week, we ended up having the Oktoberfest on Friday. So although we didn't really get to listen to the Oompa bands that I was hoping that the DJ played, he played a lot of current German music. So from their pop charts, and what he didn't realize is that a lot of those tunes were listed as jazz tunes. So it was really cool to listen to some of that. I laughed when I recognized one of the albums that was actually a Polish jazz artist of all people.
Because
no. Current artist I listened to because of a guy from work who had brought in some Polish jazz, as he called it, Polish jazz. They weren't quite Polish jazz, but I think they took a lesson from Komita and some of his interesting choices. But so we had that fun day of Oktoberfest, and I brought home about half of the sauerkraut, which was awesome.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
a lot of the kids just started to pass on it as I walked in. I said, "You guys realize that it's been a week fermenting. This is homemade kraut." And so I had kids coming back for second helpings, and one of them came back for third. So that was a fun time. Of course, this week, Matt, we wrapped up, and actually this morning, since we're recording a couple of days late, this morning, Maria Schneider's conversation dropped on YouTube, which was so cool. Over the process of this week, I've gone back to her experience. Everything that she's got on the website, when you download, you get to listen to interviews and watch some more behind the scenes. and it's given me a lot of great ideas for a video project that I want to do for a local pianist, Enrique Pintoya. And so I'm pretty excited to walk with him through some of this experience and see maybe that's what we want to do when he does his big band stuff. So
Good.
That's been my week.
But yeah, so let's get into Lennie Tristano.
Let's bring that slide back up. This is, of course, Lennie Tristano. This is the album cover from his record. Matt and I were just talking about this a little bit ago. There may be a different cover. It may have a border around it. May be listed on iTunes as the new Tristano, but make no mistake, it is Tristano, or in most records, it's called Lennie Tristano by Lennie Tristano. That was on Atlantic Records.
So let me talk a little bit about the artwork, because I kind of feel like I could maybe almost pull that look off. Kind of. Except my face is probably more highlighted here. I'm running off of a different recording rig, so I can only do one thing at a time today because I got one screen. But the artwork, I mean, okay. When I talk about it, it reminds me of something that you would do, something that you could do with a photograph.
Oh, yeah.
You highlight that forehead, and that brings me to one of my talking points anyways. In the magazine, I think you quoted it at the end of the last episode when we were introducing the album. Tristano always had the image of an aloof intellectual, and this artwork cover kind of shows it, not that being bald means you're aloof, but it just, I don't know. It's just,
it's something interesting because I would almost call it sterile.
Yes.
Or very commercial, sterilized. It's cut and dry is what it is.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
I think that kind of sums up what this album was too. Kind of cut and dry. Push the boundaries, but the picture may be cold of the record itself.
Next slide. I just got a couple of pictures. The top left one there, that's the one. I just really enjoyed that shot. Anyways, it did give him more character than I kind of even pictured in my head as him having. But the smile is there, and his eyes are kind of lit up a little bit. So it's an interesting picture. And then the one on the bottom right, man, I found that one, and I just thought that's the one I got to put in because I love the artwork. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance. No, you know what? It's from Etsy. Yeah, so I love that though. I mean, it's definitely Lennie. I mean, the artwork is labeled Lennie Tristano, so I know that it's a picture of Lennie, but it just captures him a little bit.
So it's interesting though, because if I look at that upper left corner photo of him, very relaxed, very chilled, very much not the guy I could have expected to be hanging out with after listening to a lot of his music. The big bright smile, the engagement, the warmness, and then the artwork, that really does represent him pretty well.
Yeah. Well, and a couple articles that I read said that he was just like his students, that when he was teaching music, his students thought that he was too direct and too to the point, like he didn't beat around the bush at all. And that picture on the top left, it doesn't look like a guy that would do that. It might have, but yeah. All right, so let's move on to jazz lingo for the day. The term that I chose was ground beat. Ground beat. And ground beat is the basic metric beat, most often in quarter notes, whether explicitly stated or not. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, that'd be the ground beat, right? So this is kind of the time of the music is the way that I was thinking of it. But I picked these up from the Jazz Lingo website that I found, and so I don't make these up or look them up. I just pick one and kind of talk about it a little bit. So ground beat is the basic metric beat. Moving on, where you can get it. This week's album can be found on Google Music, iTunes, YouTube, LP, and CD. Now, for the last week, I thought I was listening to the wrong album, and we discussed it right before you hit record that I actually did have the right album, and it's called The New Lennie Tristano. So the cover is just a little bit different. So if you're looking on iTunes, you have to look for Lennie Tristano the new Tristano, and the album that you'll find is the right one. So, yeah, just be on the lookout for that. So I put a quote at the bottom of the slide, and this is a Lennie Tristano quote. He says, "The hippest thing that you can do is not play at all. Just listen." So I guess that makes us pretty hip, Drew, because we listen to his music all week.
I think we're pretty hip cats now.
I do too. Still very much on connoisseurs, but we're getting to a little bit to the hipness side.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you present the info slide because I've got an old version and I'm looking at the wrong slide. Can you do that for me?
Oh, you're looking at the old one? Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So Lennie Tristano, born 1919. We lost him in 1978. I don't know how long that would be. 59 years old, roughly. His influences, and started piano at the age of 4, where he took classical lessons until he was 8. Then he played the tenor sax in the 1940s. 38 to 41, American Conservatory of Music for master's degree. I don't see many actual named influences, and I didn't find anything when I was looking for that either. It's not like he talked about names or any associations with people. Didn't even mention any professors. He was at... during his school years, he did play several instruments, though. I want to touch on that: saxophone, trumpet, guitar, and drums. And as I read through that, again, it didn't even talk about who his influences were, just that he had them. I was looking for when he was at the school for blind.
Right.
But didn't mention that. Discography: 17 studio albums and 8 as a sideman. Genre: jazz, bebop, cool jazz, free jazz, and post-bop. I found free jazz really interesting.
Yeah, same.
What Lennie was known for, he was blind by 10. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. In 1947, he partnered with Charlie Parker. First recording was labeled as too far ahead of its time by critics. Overdubbing was used in several recordings. We'll touch on that too. But by 1950, his focus switched to music education. And what a great opportunity for him. You mentioned that. 6 Degrees. I just blew through all that information. But 6
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Lennie Tristano, Lee Konitz, and Miles Davis. And it's interesting that you came up with Lee, because obviously Lee was on this album. So that firsthand. I came up with another one just because of Dizzy Gillespie. He played with Diz at roughly the same time he was playing with Parker, and he also played with Max Roach. But Max wasn't a direct connect to Miles, but I just found that really interesting in the bebop era.
So let me ask you this: did Parker ever play with Diz? We could have gone Tristano, Parker, or Miles. Did Charlie Parker?
That's a great question.
But yeah, I just thought if you knew off the top of your head.
No, I don't.
Okay, I don't either. But that yeah,
I could have. It would have been an interesting one to pay attention to, because it seemed like those two might have butted heads a little bit.
I can see that. Yep, I can see that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's see what do I got for. Nope, you're going to have to do the Today in Jazz History slide too. I've got an old copy. Sorry.
I'm gonna get to that information slide here in just a second, Matt, or the Today in Jazz History. But I want to touch on that. I hit pause so that I could look into it. Bird was Miles's primary musical inspiration, mentor, and eventually employer after he moved to New York City. It looks like there was some disputes later. Maybe they did butt heads, but I would have never thought to look at. I'm sorry, I said Bird. Charles Parker.
Charles. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yardbird. So yeah,
and you know, it doesn't necessarily mean they were enemies or anything like that, because a musical inspiration could be someone who is better than you, and you're looking up to them, thinking, "Man, I'm never going to get to that level." And if I'm not saying Miles could ever compete with Parker, but he's using him as the inspiration to practice harder or do more or do different. So,
well, it's interesting though, because if you think about it, everybody wanted to be Charlie Parker. He was pushing that bebop at the time, and his ability, his virtuosity was just impeccable. He was a little bit of a wild one on a horn, and Miles did have that streak of bebop and hard bop in him. Well, why wouldn't you? That was the music of the time until it was no longer the music of the time. So, Miles, Lily quoted this the other day, and I had to look it up. Miles said, "I'd rather play bad music with a bad band than play the same old stuff."
Yeah, so, that's a great quote.
I thought, wow, what a nugget from that. So, okay, this October 16th, today in jazz history. I'm glad you allowed me to talk about this one. Trumpeter Roy Hargrove was born in 1969 in Waco, Texas, just an hour and a half north of me. And Roy Hargrove, man, much love.
Yeah, rest in peace, brother.
Trombonist Ray Anderson was born in 1952 in Chicago. I didn't put that on there, so I don't know much about Ray Anderson, but I do know this. It's in Chicago, and he's a trombonist. Some props on that one.
Yeah.
And in March of next year, Trombone Shorty will be in Austin at Austin City Limits.
You're going to go see him again.
I think we already have tickets as of
Good for you. Good for you.
And this quote from Lennie Tristano. It's not instant composing. It's not any kind of formula. All you do is hear music in your head and reproduce it. Man. Ooh.
He was definitely an intellectual composer.
He was. Oh, he was. That's no doubt about that. You hear it in your head and you reproduce it.
Right.
As I've been learning how to improvise or comping, it's composing on the spot. And one of the things that I think that you and I are experiencing right now is as we enjoy jazz music each week, a new album, a new style, we listen to this, we listen to that. It's building our repertoire of what we know and hear. When something came on the other day, I was like, oh, that's Cannonball Adderley. I know that really well. And then all of a sudden I hear another Sentimental Mood. And I was like, oh, that's the Coltrane album right there. And this pops on, and I'm like, oh, I know that album really well. And then you hear a guitarist, and you're like, oh, that's Wes Montgomery. I think that really is. Oh, that's definitely Django. What we're hearing is what we've heard so many weeks and months of doing. And so learning to improvise is just regurgitating what I've practiced. And I think about that quote from him, pardon me, because I listened to a track of Clifford Brown rehearsing. And what was he doing? He was just working through chord changes. Hours and hours and hours. So when you go to compose on the spot, you're just regurgitating what you've already known and heard.
It's kind of second nature. It becomes second nature. The more you rehearse it, the more you practice it, then it becomes more natural. It becomes more natural. And so
it's funny,
especially
the arpeggio for the arpeggio for a D for a trumpet, D, F, D, F, A, and then C. Well, D, F, and A.
D, F sharp. D, F sharp, A, C.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Well, if you play it as an F, boo dee boo be doo boo be doo.
Okay.
That's how I remember Clifford. And so every time I go through those arpeggios and I play that, I just skip the rest of the arpeggio practice and run right off into I remember Clifford. Why? Because that's what I hear in my head.
Yes.
The other day I'm sitting down practicing something, and I was like, oh, that's Happy Birthday. And I'm like, well, let's just change the rhythm up, and you start playing along, and you go, oh yeah, it's what I've practiced a million times. And so anyways, I got sidetracked in that one. Sidebar.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
Lennie
That's quite
Tristano.
all right. But Tristano he's very intellectual in his composing, in his performing, and it talks in the magazine. It talks about the overdubbing, and maybe if we let's put a track on.
Let's do that.
And
Let's do that. I was going to talk about 1955 before we did that.
All right, do that. Let me pull up the track real quick, and you do that.
Well, you do that. 1955, there were some other big things that happened this year. And it's interesting, my choice of things. Charlie Parker dies in New York City at the age of 34. That was March 12th. But back up to the top, January 7th, Marian Anderson is the first African-American singer to perform at the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. March 9th, Claudette Colvin, a 15-year-old African-American girl, refuses to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama, and she becomes the plaintiff in Broader versus Gale in 1956, which rules bus segregation to be unconstitutional. The prototype Lockheed U-2 aircraft first flies in Nevada, and then, of course, Little Richard records Tutti Frutti in New Orleans, and it is released that year, October.
So the airplane U-2, not the band, right?
Not the band. The Lockheed Martin U-2.
Okay.
U-2.
Yeah, -2. Yeah.
Yes. And here's what's hit me over these last few months, looking at the years back. Man, the 50s and the 60s were a lot about the black and white. It was about these race relations or lack of relations, and I realized that struggle continues today. But the people who stood up at that time. It was interesting because they mentioned it here it was March 9th, Claudette Colvin. But what we don't think about is that later that year in October is Rosa Parks. Why do we not talk about Claudette, the 15-year-old girl who stood up? I don't want to go down that, but the 50s and the 60s was a very interesting time. And as I've researched these, just here's what happened in that year, there's a lot of race talk in that.
Well, and it may put some of the music that we listen to into perspective.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anytime I hear 55 to 61, those banging albums in 59 just come to my mind. And we've talked about a couple of them. I don't have all my notes in front of me. Otherwise, I'd expand a little bit more. But, 59 really jumps out at me. And so you just think just a few years before that, what was going on in America, and the music was even changing just a little bit. I watched a Rick Beato interview today. It's the 17. It wasn't an interview. I'm sorry. It was just a discussion between Rick and one of his friends about how bands have changed over time. And the quote that stuck out in my mind was, they would never listen to music that was 40 years old because it wasn't for them. It wasn't for their generation. Yet here we are on this journey. We're listening to music that's a century old with Jelly
Roll and Bix.
Jelly, thank you. Yeah. And then, you jump into the 50s, which would be 70 years for us, 70 years old, 60 years old.
Yep.
And so we're diving into it like head first, like we want to do this. Whereas maybe in the 50s, they're thinking, man, I don't want to listen to music from the 30s. We got to be contemporary. So not only was, America going through some rough stuff, but even some of the music was going through some rough stuff. So, yes. And Lennie, I don't know. Maybe he didn't change enough with the times, is why he's not more relevant in the jazz community, or being, because let's be honest, his name wouldn't necessarily be one of the first ones that I would think of when we talk about jazz piano. Oh, well, yeah, you got to go listen to Lennie Tristano.
No,
for me. Now there are some old time piano players that would come to my mind first.
Yeah.
To say, oh yeah, go listen to this.
Well, it's interesting because we never knew his name before getting to the page. And I don't think that I would have ever given him a listen. It wouldn't have been something that, he was overdubbing in 1950. Les Paul was overdubbing in 1930. He did not do anything that was new. Period. So why would I have ever cared? And I still ask that question, why is it the top 100? I've wrestled with this all week, this week and a year ago when we first listened to this. And I got to give it a fair shake as we go to the ratings later today or later in this conversation. But it was right into Christmas time when we had to put this on. We were forced to listen to it because that's our journey. We don't skip. We listen to it. We enjoy it for what it is or don't enjoy it.
Okay, then if you're going to talk about what we did the next week, let's talk about what we did last week and the music we had in our ears. You touched on the Maria Schneider episode last week. We had Maria Schneider in our ears at this time last year, and then you're coming into a completely different.
You go from some of the greatest music ever composed and written to dusty ass piano player. I'm sorry, I got to put it that way.
That was in my notes. That's exactly what I said.
That's what we said. Technically sound, emotionally cold. We were not creatively inspired by this album, and I wrestled with it again. So let's go to a couple of audio clips so that. And I'm thinking about a minute long or more, just really to get the feel for it.
Okay, perfect. And you want to hear?
I think that we want to do 2 audio clips today for this one. And the Turkish Mambo, do you have that up?
I do.
Starting about 45 seconds, and you can hear the piano. What you're going to hear is the overdubbing part of this.
Right. Here we go. You ready?
Yep.
You can totally hear the way that the piano is off rhythm. It's almost like a horse trot, almost, except maybe with a 3-legged horse instead of a 4-legged horse. So the overdub, he's playing one tempo with one dub, and then he plays a different tempo on the second recording. So it's not that it's not interesting. It's just maybe too far ahead of us as unconnoisseurs, or too far even ahead of his own time, where we're thinking, man, this came out in 55. This isn't the kind of music that was coming out in 55. So
it seems that the controversy for him was that it was before his time, but overdubbing was not new. When you hear the bass line, the second bass line, and then he finally steps into solo on the right hand, I've got to wonder, was it some of it is the fact that he sped up. He didn't just overdub. He sped up the playback that he was playing over. And I don't know. I have to say, though, the creativity in it, a year later, I look at it and go, yeah, he was really thinking, how do I push this music forward?
Yeah.
It's what I have to assume.
True. On the wiki page for the album, it says, yes, I overdub, and yes, I speed it up, and if you think that I play that fast, good for you. If you think that I can, play that quickly. I'm paraphrasing there because I'm just, but he overdubs and he speeds things up and he slows things down. But okay, yeah, overdubbing's not new. You had another clip though, right?
I did. And it was funny because I want to talk about that overdubbing before we go to this next clip, because I think that we're going to hear him play a whole different style here. I ended up going back into the overdubbing. That was my rabbit hole this particular week, because of the idea. Was it the fact that he was layering or tracking? We do it. Musicians do it today. I mean, I think about what's the guy's name?
Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran.
Looping. I play this thing, I record it, and then I play over it. And then I record 5 layers deep, and now I've got this. I mean, it's common practice today in everybody's world. Pardon me.
But like you said, it wasn't new in the 50s, though. Either.
No, it was used to add complexity and richness to a recording. In the late 20s, RCA Victor, not long after the introduction of electric mics, added a studio orchestra over Enrico Caruso's playing. So they used a completely different method right there. They loved his music, and they just decided, well, we'll drop in a studio orchestra behind him. 1941, Sidney Bechet, the Shuruk of Arabia, and the blues of Bechet. Then in 1948, Patti Page on her song Confess was used on magnetic tape, but then Les Paul, as early as 1930, was the earliest innovator into using overdubbing for all the work. And nobody mentioned that as far as a major no-no. So was it just that it was jazz? Is that it was Lennie? Well, just that he would overdub his own hands and speed it up. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of. When I was reading and really digging in this week, there was a lot of talk about Descent into the Maelstrom, which was the album before, the one that he did in '52. But as far as this particular album, there wasn't a lot of discussion on it. It was just like handed over, okay, here you go, we're done. And then I'm not even sure in the jazz community how well received this album was. That's the thing for me. Now, is it creative? Yes. It touches all of our boxes: the craftsmanship, the awareness, the creativity, the spirit. The only one that it doesn't check for me this week is the emotion. Like you said before, it's cold. It's just it's kind of lifeless for me. So yes, the craftsmanship, yes, the awareness is there. The creativity is definitely there.
Yeah.
The spirit of the album, you can. If you didn't know it was overdubbed or you didn't research the album at all, you wouldn't think it was overdubbed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let's play some of the 32nd East 32nd Street.
Perfect. That's song number 4 on the album.
Yes.
And where do you want to start that one at?
You can start it almost anywhere. Let's just start it at the beginning.
Right at the beginning.
Right at the beginning.
Here we go. Wow. That's a good clip. I like that.
You really, what I understood from listening to that, you understand he really is a virtuoso. He really knows his stuff. He knows his music. He knows the way to put it together. And the way he runs through that was just phenomenal.
I agree. Especially in that clip right there, because it does have movement to it. It does have kind of excitement to it. But I failed to picture anything while he's playing. It's kind of just linear for me, though. You know what I mean? Whereas the artist last week, man, when her music is on, my brain is exploding, and I can. You described it last week as the field and the wind is blowing the corn and it's moving, and the vastness of the music. With Tristano, though, it's just kind of linear. It's just that I'm not picturing anything. I'm looking at the wiki page again. All Music gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and the Penguin Guide to Jazz gave it a 4 out of 4 stars. So we're obviously missing something, being unconnoisseurs. Listeners, help us out. What are we missing here with Lennie Tristano? If you've listened to Tristano and understand, help us become better by letting us know what we're missing.
And that's there's something interesting about that question. What is it that we missed? There's 4 original tracks, and five tracks were actually done at a live recording. Was it the 4 live tracks, or I'm sorry, the 5 live tracks that were they were jazz standards of the time? That's what I was looking for.
Right.
These Foolish Things. That was a Jack Strachey. I'm saying that wrong. Strachey.
Yep, that's right.
You Go to My Head was from 1938, Fred Coots. All the Things You Are was from 1939, Jerome Kern. And Ghost of a Chance, 1932, Bing Crosby. You Go to My Head and All the Things You Are were done by current jazz musicians. These are jazz standards that will forever live. And was it the way he did those on the album? I think that's the other part, is the album's really got 2 pieces to it. His original compositions and these live jazz standards. And so it could be viewed that way. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. So like I said, listeners, if you got something that we missed, please chime in, let us know, leave it in a comment. And also, you brought it to my attention this morning. Hey, if you like the content, make sure you click the like button down below, because I watch our own content and I fail to do that most of the time, just because I'm like, I get so excited, but I forget to hit the like button. So
and subscribe.
Hit that like button. Like and subscribe. That's right. Okay.
Before I go any further, because of 1955, the passing of Charlie Parker, because of his early years, 1947, playing with him, I think it's only fair that we listen to a segment of that one. And the other reason is, in the magazine, it does highlight it. The stark simplicity of Requiem, a highlight of the whole album, was avowedly a reaction to the death in 1955 of Charlie Parker, and begins with an up-tempo solo introduction. Tristano then plays quiet, 2-handed chords outlining slow blues. Basically to say, he does some really neat things in here, but it is a requiem for Charlie Parker.
Okay, so let's play that clip real quick.
I'm thinking that there's a period in that at about minute 30 to 2 minutes where you really hear the simplicity of his playing. And again, it's one of his original pieces, and I don't know if it's become a standard after that. So let's play that clip. Really simple, that left-hand chord, and the right hand just moving on the piano.
Okay, well, when you put it into perspective that it's a requiem for Parker, and if you didn't have the magazine and were reading that, you'd still think dusty-ass piano player. In my opinion.
Dad said this the other day. Imagine the flavor that you could have created if you had Judy Martin play these songs.
Okay, there you go.
How much better would this have been if you had some kind of a soul
But maybe that's his whole thing, though, is
Yeah.
less is more.
Well, yeah. What was the quote earlier in the
Yeah,
slide?
the hippest thing to do is just not play, just listen. So maybe he was just trying to be hip. I don't know, and maybe we're missing something. But
Yeah, that's a great time to remind everyone. Let me know.
yeah,
What I
yeah, for
missed.
sure.
I still don't think it belonged in the top 100. If I'm honest,
Not this particular album.
no.
I
He has
listened
some
to
other- Yeah.
Lenny's Pennies. I found a little more interesting.
Yep.
And he does have some other work. Well, I mean, yeah, from the information slide, he's got 17 CDs that you could listen to, but I don't know how this one. Maybe it was just Requiem that was enough to get it in the top 100.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: did it shake your world?
No.
No, me neither. And whether it was the week that we did it, coming into Christmas, what we listened to last week, not giving it a fair shake, I don't know, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. And even listening to it again this week, I still was reminded, yeah, I'm this won't be one that I pull up, regularly to get back into. So
Nope.
I'm ready to rate this album. What about you? You ready to rate?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's do it. For me this week, for Lennie Tristano, the album Lennie Tristano was a 4.5 out of 10. That's about what I could go to max. And my note said he doesn't inspire me. So what about you?
4.5 is what I rated this at as well. Technically sound by every means. He's no Art Tatum by any stretch of the imagination. Emotionally cold and very technical. And you said it at the beginning, his students, he taught that way too. It was a very technical and proficient way to do jazz music. But he was cold like that, and that was his thing. So I give it that.
Let's put it to you this way: for as little, we rated Jelly Roll Morton higher than we rated Lennie Tristano. That means I will go back to Jelly Roll before I'll go back to Lennie.
Yeah,
that's just. I mean, and again, you put it all into perspective, and the journey that we're on is helping us to understand and appreciate this genre of music. So,
yeah,
kind of having to do this week probably was beneficial in expanding our palette.
It was, and I want to end my conversation about 4.5 with this quote, and I think that this sums up Lennie pretty doggone well. It was another tool that any artist may use to craft his work. He was talking about the historical dubbing. What I care about is that the results sounded good to me. Period.
Okay.
And I think that being said, as an artist myself, did I appreciate the craftsmanship that I put into it? Did I appreciate what I did to get the results that I've gotten? And if I do, I do. And if I say no, I didn't enjoy this at all, I didn't appreciate how I got to this sound, then why am I doing it? So
my favorite artist said the same quote. Pat Metheny said the same thing. I play the way that I do, and I have my sound because that's what I like. And if you like it, you come with me and we'll do it together. But if you don't like it, that's fine. I want to play what I like. So I get that from Tristano. I do. I get that. But
his sound and Pat Metheny sounds two different worlds, baby. Two different worlds.
You're right.
One of them's good to our ears, and one of them is not good to our ears.
So, we're missing Dad this week. He was not feeling well because of his flu shot and his shingles shot. And we missed him last week because we were selfish on the episode. So we're going to be selfish again next week. I told him in 2 weeks we'd have him back on, but let's talk about the artists that we're going to cover next week. You ready for that?
Oh, I'm definitely ready for that.
Okay. So number 61 in the countdown, and again, we are using the JazzWise magazine, the top 100 albums that shook the world from JazzWise magazine. You've been following us this long, you know that, but I'm going to say it every week, just so that everyone knows what we're doing. We're talking about artist number 61. Drew, you want to introduce? I'm going to let you introduce the artist because I got the privilege of doing number 63. So I'm going to let you do this one.
Yeah, this week, episode 40 coming out in a week from now will be Esbjorn Svensson Trio. Now, we have given the clap along the way, last few weeks, from Gargarian's point of view is how I'm going to say it. From Gargarian's point of view, record label was ACT, and it was recorded November of 1998. EST, Esbjorn Svensson Trio. Now,
so you got Esbjorn Svensson on piano, you got Dan Bergerlund on bass, and you got Magnus Ostrom on the drums. And again, this album is from 1998. Now, what were you going to say?
Yuri Gagarin.
Yes.
Russian cosmonaut went into space. So I can imagine what kind of noise we are going to be getting ourselves into.
Absolutely. I love the journey. Because I picture myself walking through the mall, stopping at the bookstore, picking this magazine up, flipping through it, and not recognizing any of these names, and just thinking, no. And then we would skip we would skip the important ones too.
Well, and that's what I thought about us getting this the way we did, just going from 100 down. We don't get the skip. If I was flipping through it in the magazine, I'd have gone, I know Thelonious Monk, Gil Evans,
Miles Davis, okay,
Wayne Shorter, and
did we know Wayne though that much before we started? I didn't know Wayne Shorter that much.
I did because of Zero Gravity.
His
documentary, and of course, learning to play the horn. Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage. You start listening to some of these songs, and you go, "Okay, Footprints. We played that a couple of years ago." So that was all about the same timing. Did I know of him? No, I knew Miles Davis and John Coltrane.
Sure,
I listened to a sermon on the Gospel of John Coltrane. So.
Absolutely.
No, and I would have never listened to EST.
No, no, I wouldn't have either. But from Gagarin's point of view, Esbjorn Svensson Trio, put it in your ears this week. I promise you will not regret listening to the album Esbjorn Svensson Trio. So, yep, you'll have the album.
Check out more of their albums as well, because I know that you will. And we can talk about a few of them then.
Yeah, we'll talk about a whole lot next week. So, hey, thanks for tuning in this week. I'm sorry that you got to see all this going on and the bad lighting and the bad mic. Next week, we're going to be back rocking and rolling just like we normally are with another great episode. But for this week, Drew, why don't you tell them where they can find us?
You can find us on all your favorite podcasts. We're on those favorite three. If you're not already listening to us on there, don't forget that you can treat this as a podcast because we're on the YouTube, and you can always check this out on YouTube and just drive and listen. You can find us on our website, theunconnoisseur.com, and don't forget to email us at theunconnoisseur@gmail.com. Matt's out on TikTok, and those are the kind of places they'll find us at.
Perfect. Hope you guys have a great week. Esbjorn Svensson Trio in your ears. I promise you won't regret it.
Not at all. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.